It wasn't until much later that Luther tried to explain what happened in that valley. A fantastical and horrifying story, parts of which I still find hard to believe.
As you clear the trout from the line and you look at it, what it's wrapped in, and you see that it's tangled up in a messy knot of waxed thread, similar to the one that you found on the body, but much longer, as if it was just kind of pulled from a spool or something along those lines, and then got in, and this fish got tangled in it for some reason. And as you slowly kind of pull it apart, those sounds of that battle return. There's the gunfire and the yelling and the screaming and the explosions, and there's a moment of pause. Pickelson is back at the battle. In his hands is a waxed thread. This one's red. The one you've been holding is more of a dingy brown color. And you have a lighter with it as well. You have a spark, and you set fire to the end of the waxed thread, and it sparks to life and falls from your hands. And you know that you're in danger, and you rush back behind cover. You see a large group of hostile towards you, charging in towards your fortification. You've been losing ground and all of that. And as a large crowd kind of crests a hill, there's a loud explosion and more gunfire and more screaming. And there's it takes a minute to take some deep breaths and calm yourself and come back from the savagery that you were in the middle of that battle on. And you know that what you're holding in your hand is a fuse.
As Pickelson comes to, I think he looks up to where that fresh slide is and nods and calls for Luther.
Luther comes jogging over. Oh, did you catch anything?
Fuse. I caught fuse.
Does your demeanor look anything different than normal?
I think opposed to proud shoulders, I think he has droopy shoulders, and I think he's looking a little pale, and he steps in puddles where normally he would be stepping around puddles, or he's not as agile on his feet, but he's more trudging through the banks and the reeds.
He puts a hand on your shoulder.
Has the dead fish and the rod in one hand and the fuse in the other, and he points up to the rocks. He goes, "Now, that looks fresh up there. The stream, it's not flowing as wide as it should be. And there was fuse wrapped around this fish.
Oh, okay.
And then there's fuse in the person's belongings."
Oh, that's what that is, the wax wire.
Yeah. I used this stuff, well, when I was working as a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
We used it for explosives.
That's a lot of fuse.
It was a long fuse.
Okay, so you're thinking that it has to do with that landslide there. Doesn't look terribly fresh. We've been up here for days.
No, but
okay.
How dead is this? How dead is this dead fish? Is this like it's been nibbled on, so it's been a while, or does it look like this has been some trash that's floated down recently and then it got tangled up?
It's been nibbled on.
Okay.
It's been. I think that the parts that weren't necessarily all tangled up have become food.
Okay. Penny, I think you need to tell the group of this. That's a big find. I mean, if that's the case, that's a connection. That makes us a little bit more than just some idiot that ended up dying out here.
Right.
So we need to investigate that.
I think that's our next spot.
Okay. I trust your instincts on that. Are you doing okay?
I don't have any fish, but,
fair point.
Don't eat this.
Not going to eat it. But other than that, anything I need help with?
Yeah, so the fuse just took me back to the other side of the world. There was a lot of mayhem, a lot of savagery.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I
wasn't expecting it.
And where did you feel the nibble in your fishing?
Oh, out there.
Okay, so he looks out at the lake, trying to visualize like the current from where we're at here. Granted, this is a big area, but just kind of speculating. Is it coming from the direction of the landslide, or would it seem like it would come from another spot that's feeding in?
I don't know that you...
Don't think I can deduce that?
I think that the waters are a bit more still because it's a wide open area, so the current is a little bit more underneath the surface.
Oh, okay.
But in trying to deduce that, one thing that you would definitely see visually is that one of the reasons why this was a more convenient place to camp is that more of the bed, the river, has dried up from that trickle. You can see that you were able to kind of cast further out into the middle of this lake because the rocks and the mud have extended into this kind of drier, not dried up, but drier trickle from it.
Well, being drier still speaks volumes to how long ago it's been that way too. So, okay. So he's looking down at the mud and everything like that. He said, all right, Penny, I can't tell where that's coming from. I think you're right. And obviously it's old enough that this is drier, but not obviously going to be dry, this area here. Do you want to go ahead and let everyone else know what you found out and see if we can brainstorm a little more on it? I think this is more your territory than it is mine at the moment.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Let's go and get back to camp. And
Annika's sitting near the campfire with her diary out, and she's taking a look at the landscape up north, same as you were, Pickelson, and kind of noting things. And as you guys come in, she kind of looks up at you.
as I was fishing, I snagged a dead trout wrapped in fuse.
Displays the fuse.
And does this fuse match the waxed string that was on the belongings? You tell me.
Luther goes over to those belongings because we did bring those with us, and he fishes around it, pulls out the fuse, and then brings it over to you. Looks about the same. He's being the assistant at the moment.
I think Gerwin speaks up.
Hello? What's this? Let me see that.
And then the longer piece that you just found, he hands Luther back the short one. That's the evidence, so to speak. And he takes this new one and he pulls out his knife and he cuts a little 3-inch piece off of it. And with his 2 delicate fingers, he sticks the end of it in the campfire.
Oh, that can't end wrong.
He gets a self-satisfied smirk.
Right. See, nothing's gonna happen. It's just wet string.
Nothing happens. There's a little trail of blue smoke that kind of comes up, and he's kind of getting ready to laugh at you, Pickelson, when suddenly, yow! And the fuse dries out enough, catches fire, and then burns the ends of his fingers.
Yeah. I guess it is a fuse.
Biggie, I did say that it was wrapped around a dead trout.
He kind of trudges back to his tent, sits down.
Definitely a fuse. I'm going to go put this one up. Goes back, puts up the evidence. Because we're all right, that's a lot longer fuse than obviously we have over here.
And that seems to be a lot newer landslide than
Perhaps it was a test.
perhaps it was a staging ground.
What are you on about? This entire valley would be impossible to march troops through. Small groups like us, sure. But how do you think is going to get all the troops to the capital marching through these steep mountains without any sense of order, huh? Nah, it's impossible. The only way troops can enter Glenick from the north is through Kildale, and I hear tell that Baron Connacht keeps his own private army in his castle.
Well, what would happen, theoretically, if they were able to cut off the waterfalls up here? If somebody were to.
Why, that would dry up Gale Falls. It would ruin the capital. The whole system would dry up. That would be an act of war.
Yes, it could mean that, Gerwin, but we don't know anything for certain yet. Least of all if Garia is declaring war on us.
Or maybe he was just panning for gold and decided he wanted to start a new mine, too.
Yeah, okay, I can't be too paranoid about it, even though Lockwood's compulsion leads him to paranoia. So we should definitely at least check it out.
I agree we should look into it. Gerwin and someone else, yes, Bryce. You two scout ahead and find us a line to that outcropping. Return when you mark us a trail and we'll head out to investigate at first light.
Yep, Penny, where do you think they would have detonated it from?
So they're angled as if they came from the eastern face of the western mountain. It doesn't look impassable to get up there. There's still a long trail. It's kind of off in the distance. There's going to be a long trail of needing to get through the woods and still work the incline, which is why Bryce and Gerwin need to go scout how you're going to get up there. But they can see where the target is. So where you guys have been pointing, there's a plateau there. It's it's a decent place to go investigate. So Gerwin and Bryce scout for a couple of hours. They come back probably just after the sun is peaked behind the mountains and it's starting to get chilly. And they've found a way up there. Everybody can make it out in the morning. And there's kind of a tense bickering that happens in the camp. The soldiers themselves see Garia declaring war with this, essentially trying to destroy their home. Annika's trying to keep people from flying off the handle of wanting to punch the first Garian that they see. And so it's kind of a tense evening, a little bit more than it's been, as you feel like you're getting closer to some answers.
And Lockwood and Pickelson match the same, as in, they're going to ruin our homeland. I think that's what's going on. I think it's simple miners. Just blew himself up.
But yeah, I know you're reining me in constantly.
And yet, there was a weird sprocket thing far away.
A weird sprocket thing?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
The weird sprocket mechanical thing.
Oh, the thing fell apart in his hand. What do you think that would have been?
I don't know. So familiar, though.
What do you use to light the fuses with normally? Just
A lighter.
Or just a lighter?
Standard issue lighter.
That wasn't a standard issue lighter.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. Andrew, was it a standard issue lighter that was decayed?
We got it to spare. We don't know.
I think it came to Pickelson what it was, and it was not a standard issue lighter. I was just, as you guys were talking about, I was like, do I say what it was? Do I not say what it was? But I think you have uncovered the clue at this point that dynamite was involved with this person.
Whether it involves this and whether it was a nefarious thing, we don't know yet.
Correct.
I got it. It was a hand crank.
Wait, what?
We used to use those in adverse conditions. Yeah, it was like magnets and stuff. And you would throw your fuse in it and it would crank and it would be detonated and that sort of lighter.
Oh.
I'd forgotten about those. Either way, I need some tea and a smoke.
Would you like me to go fetch you some tea?
Oh, no, I'll go fetch. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sure. No problem. Sits down, starts drawing out the landslide, taking notes with big underlined war, economic failure. All his little meticulous, like, wait, and then you flip the page and it's like, has, economic ruin as the top thing. And then he's got like, okay, so here is, he starts listing out like all the different nations that could benefit from the economic ruin and where would the rivers actually go considering the map, and total conspiracy theory lines of guessing here. The Miners Guild, what would they benefit from? Whatever's in the Miners Guild in it. Trying to wrap it all in together.
And there's the camera pans up from Lockwood's conspiracy journal up to the moon, and there's a faint howl of a wolf in the background to end the night. You wake up the next morning and get everything packed up again.
Is everyone back?
Everyone made it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm paranoid. Just making sure you're like, oh, those two guys left, and well, guess what?
Yeah.
They're not back anymore.
Yeah, they came back right before nightfall. They made it back shortly after the other two got back with a couple of rabbits that were shared around the fire and all of that. And that's when they had the kind of tense camp discussion of what does this new information mean. And as Lockwood and Pickelson had their bicker onto the side, Annika kind of calmed everybody down, let them know information will happen tomorrow. They just needed to wait.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you set off for the ridge, for this kind of cliff face. First thing in the morning, after a little bit of breakfast, the campfire is put out. But Annika makes the call of that this camp is your base camp, probably for the day. You'll go up, you'll investigate, you'll come back down here where it's a little bit more comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that. Tell me, Pickelson, is it customary to leave someone to guard the camp, or are all 8 of you going together?
I think you would send out an expedition of usually your specialist plus 2 guards would be my guess. I guess you would go based on what's captain's orders, is she supposed to observe everything or just lead it?
Annika's definitely intrigued by this information. She's going to come. Her mission, as is the mission of those under her command, is to protect you two and to make sure that you two reach places you can investigate to come up with the truth. That's her mission.
Okay.
So she brings Gerwin and Fagin.
That makes sense. Yeah, because you still want to have people back at base camp if there's an issue, like somebody gets hurt, then you want to have them to be able to come up fresh and help bring somebody down if somebody gets injured in investigating or whatever.
And I imagine that you would have one person cooking and the other 2 would be building platforms and stuff
or hunting or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that Murray's and Jerry's. We're gonna need to change. We're gonna go back and re-record everything and change his name. No, those two were your hunting party. They travel with you for a little while before they split off to go do a bit more hunting. And Bryce, in particular, is left manning the camp.
Just have to have somebody back at base camp just in case.
Yeah. So the 5 of you carry on the track that Gerwin found earlier. It takes the better part of the morning to walk the trail. Then she left the horses behind to get up to the top of this ridge. And you've got your mountain face, you've got a kind of cliff face, and then the landslide kind of comes further north behind it. You're getting kind of a view of where the rocks had originated from. But it's kind of a wide open area, and it's not a clearing. It's not so high up that there weren't any trees or anything along those lines. You used many roots and tree branches and things like that to make it up this way. In the middle north of the cliff, there's kind of a dilapidated cabin, like a little log cabin that had been built up there.
Okay.
And then to your right, there's trees working their way. They're getting kind of smaller and more scraggly, but they're working their way towards the edge of that cliff. You can look kind of over and see the little trickle of water that's kind of working its way from these massive boulders that have come over the top of this water and really kind of filled in this basin. There's a remnant of a campfire from long ago. And what I mean by that, there's like a little A-frame cooking utensil, iron stove and stand. It's been knocked over by wind, time, or animals, and you can begin to investigate around. Annika and Gerwin and Fagin kind of make their way towards the log cabin. They're going to look around inside there and kind of set up while
Smart.
You investigate. Annika kind of looks at Luther.
Yeah, just investigate the log cabin. We'll start here and kind of reconvene with you when we're done looking around in this area.
Not to be the paranoid one, but to be the paranoid one. Remember what we found. Fuse.
Yes, fuse, and yes, make sure there's nothing else that we blow up around here. Yes.
Be mindful of where and what you opened.
Oh, that's a good point.
Just saying, but I'm sure nothing nefarious is really at work here.
But if there was something nefarious, or you're thinking something might be booby-trapped?
No, I didn't want to say it. Be mindful of it.
Well, we're saying it just in case.
But you said it. We're saying it. Just in case. Yes, just in case.
So he just gives her a nod. It's like, Annika, we'll get back with you in just a moment. Let's see what we can find. So start looking around. First thing that Luther wants to look for actually is to see if there's a trail on the backside that comes up this way. If you see anything.
You can see kind of that the side of the river that you're on tends to have the wider trails that people can traverse this valley in and go up and down and all of that. And as you look out to where the rock slide has happened, you can kind of tell that it happened beneath and a little bit away from a trail leading back north. The walkway itself hasn't been blown away, or the trail or anything like that. You could definitely, it's narrower now than it was.
Oh yeah, but there was remnants of one. Okay. That's telling at the very least. So I want to dig around at this campsite a little bit. Granted, you said it's been long disused or whatever, but I don't know, something just doesn't seem right about it with the dilapidated cabin and then things like that nature. It just kind of seems maybe there might be something else there. So I'm trying to look for something that's been covered up.
And so to kind of paint a more holistic picture of where you're at, the landing that you're on now, they've climbed up to, it has that cabin that the soldiers are going to go take a look at. As I said, this is a bit wider. This is probably 50 yards or so of kind of woods around it. Almost like a 50-yard circle of trees and all of that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, you got some birch and you got some pine. They're relatively thin trees because it's a little bit higher up. They go up kind of tall. So you can see where the cabin's at and everything, but there's a lot of foliage around. You can investigate the foliage around. You can investigate the campfire, which is in front of the log cabin. You can go to the log cabin, that kind of thing.
Okay, so they're going to the log cabin. Luther stands around for a second, looks over at Penny. He's like, okay, so the fuse that you found, what's it made out of? Strips of pine, strips of oak, the strands broken down into string.
Yeah.
What is the sap or the wax?
Great question.
The speed that the fuse went when Gerwin did it is it's a manufactured fuse.
Yeah, the wax thread is usually cotton with some sort of resin and gunpowder and sealed in wax. Don't think it is manufactured up here in the boonies.
Oh, okay. If you were an accidental miner, sabotagist, economic ruin, doubt, where would you plant the charges around this area? This is a very large area.
Yeah, well, I think he points up to, you'd be on the east side where it would flow to the west side, dropping down the boulders.
Okay. Where would you, but it's a long fuse, so where would you have cover?
Oh,
That's where he's thinking first is where, yes, I see where you might put it, but where would you have cover? So we're going to go look for cover first.
no, if it's blowing out, you would want to be on the opposite side or really long ways away or upstream of it.
Like in the cabin? Or is that too far away for a fuse?
I'm just probably too far away for a fuse. But then again, you stand on the,
He starts walking towards the cliff face, at the cliff edge.
should I roll like a
As we're
vigilance
talking.
or a knowledge something?
For the landmine that I'm about to trigger? Yeah, good.
I don't mind rolling vigilance to check around here. I will say that this 50-yard area looks untouched by explosives, whereas the landscape just beyond is what's been altered.
Well,
It-
yeah. I mean, but you could have a fuse coming this direction or something. And, okay. Do we want to split up or do we want to stay together doing our search?
2 eyes are better than 1. 4 eyes are better than 2.
So together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Let's go together. Vigilance check? Is that what we were
Sure.
going with? What difficulty would you like?
You're just glancing about, passively looking for clues if you're doing vigilance, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's not passively. You're something that's
Reactive
So perception
to...
is something that is naturally in the area that you're picking up on. Vigilance is something unexpected in the area that you're picking up on. That's why it's good for ambushes and things.
Let's do average, and you can have a boost.
What's your rank in it?
Yellow-green.
Oh, yeah, same here.
Unless you want to roll it.
Oh, so that I can get your boost on. Well, it's vigilance. It's not going to give me the boost, will it?
Yeah.
From your talent?
Yeah, heightened awareness is allies within short range. I get BB on their blue on perceptions and vigilance checks.
Well, he gave you the boost, so do you
that's
want to
fine.
roll it?
I'll
Yeah,
just,
I'm
you
rolling.
both have a boost. Yeah, whoever.
All right, I'm just going to roll.
I'm seeing this narratively as a group check, whether you do it as a group check or not.
1 success.
On
Hey, that
success.
works.
So, as Lockwood steps in the direction of the cliff, the drop-off, which is to the east, Pickelson turns to kind of follow along as you're looking for what stands out. And amongst there's kind of, it's summer, so not a lot of trees are losing their leaves, but, a breeze will drop one every now and then. And an odd birch leaf kind of just drips down and catches Pickelson's attention. And it lands nearish to the end of the cliff where the drop-off is, but it lands on a black boot at the base of a tree, laying out as if there's someone sitting against the tree on the other side.
Oh, wow.
Trying to think of something witty to say.
It's a foot.
Luther, did you happen to lose a boot?
No, both my feet right here. And
Who do you think did? Here.
what? Looks over. Oh, well, is there a leg attached to this boot or is it just a boot over there?
Is there a leg attached to the boot as I pick up the boot?
Well, so it's a little ways from you. You have to walk over to pick it up. As you walk over, you do see that that there is indeed a leg and a foot that's attached in the boot. Carries up to the fact that there is a whole person leaning against this tree, slumped over, clearly having been dead for weeks.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
There's a large gash and almost like a bite's been taken out of the neck, some scratches, some big, almost bear claw scratches on the arms and chest, and a rather beaten face.
So is he... Ugh. What's he dressed like?
He is dressed in the same style of shirt and trousers as the body that was found in Craigstowe.
Oh, wonderful. Penny, just kind of walking around this body and kind of poking at it. If this was an animal attack, and he died because of an animal attack, I don't think the body would be left lying against a tree. Looks around for any kind of sign of, like, a large animal had been come through this area because there's a lot of trees around the area, right? So that's what I'm starting to kind of look around for.
Not to be too graphic, if it was an animal, Why didn't the animal finish its meal?
Exactly. Well, I mean, could have been scared off. The clothing matches the shreds that you had. The pants, sure.
Yep, it sure does.
You want to search the body.
Of course. I'll search the body.
So what do you remember of the body that you inspected in Craigstowe? How do you go about searching this body? Describe it for me.
Because you were the one who searched the clothes, yeah.
We only had the clothes because the body was already dealt with. We were looking over the different trousers, the coin purse, the leather.
Yeah, do you remember where they said the coin purse was found?
Yep, it was in the front of the trousers.
Yeah.
Tucked inside. Checking that spot on this body, you find another month's wage of Garian stamped gold.
Oh, wow.
Making notes.
So I'm turned away from you while you're doing this because I'm looking at other things. Because we're a team.
And there's going to be something that catches your attention too, Lockwood. To the south of you, now that you've kind of seen what's here, there's what appears to be an arm hanging over a high-raised root.
Oh, jeez.
You see the hand and the arm, presumably it's attached to another body.
Oh, absolutely. Penny, I'll be right back. I think I see someone. There's an arm and a hand over there on the south ridge. I'm going to go inspect it. I presume it'll be a body attached to it as well. Be right back. Come on over when you're done.
Does his body look like it was thrown, like from a particular direction?
Oh, you can check the back of him and see if there's impact on the back.
Yeah, so Pickelson, taking a closer look, as you've inspected, you found what is probably a compatriot of the original person that sent you on this adventure. The position of the body is such as if someone had slumped there and breathed their last. You know, the injuries about the neck, the person was clearly losing a lot of blood, probably trying to
Hold it in. Yeah.
struggle to stay alive and slumped back against this tree, and that is where they expired.
It's rough.
Anything else on his body that might identify him?
Yeah, there's a similar looking leather-bound journal that was illegible from all the water and that from the body in Craigstone. This one's covered in quite a bit of blood. It was kept in a breast pocket near where the neck injury was, so there's not a lot to make out, but it was closed at the time, and so opening it up, you can see some rows of numbers and figures and some things like that. It's some kind of ledger, but I think that the thing that stands out for you the most, Pickelson, is that many of the notations are in military time and shorthand.
Okay, so military time and shorthand in the journal, speaking on...
It looks like they're kind of transactions of something. And as you look kind of more closely at it, you would guess that perhaps it's explosives and coordinates and calculations.
That's not good.
I think kind of the last piece that falls into place for Pickelson before we cut over to Lockwood is that the quantity of currency that these men have begins to be a little bit more clear, that military-grade explosives and covert operations like this are not cheap.
So are they paying miners to set up explosives?
Lockwood, you're making your way a little bit further south, maybe 10 yards or so from Pickelson towards this other arm that you see. And as you begin to get closer, you're able to see a little bit past this root outcropping that is behind it. And you can see face down with gashes in the back of this shirt, someone similarly dressed. So you see a very similar body to the one that was just found.
Oh, wow.
With similar but different injuries. A lot of the injuries are to the back and all of that. You can't see what's necessarily on the front because it's laying face down in kind of a crumpled and contorted way that he fell there and never got back up.
Okay, wow. All right, so first thing he's going to do is he's going to move over to it. Now, if he rolls it over, is it going to fall off of the area where it's at, or is it level enough that he can?
It's level enough. It's kind of almost in a little indent between the roots.
Okay, so he's going to make note of, like, pull out his journal real quick and make note of the injuries on the back that he can see. And then he's going to roll the body over, carefully push the body over so he can see if there's visual, because this guy's face down, so... hey, maybe we'll get lucky and see a face. It's not eaten off.
So rolling him over, you see more signs of a struggle. The fall, clearly this gnarled way that he's sprawled out between these roots, face down, did a bit of damage, but you can see some of the bruising and cuts that are on the face happened before he fell.
He was in a fight, yeah.
There was some kind of fight that had happened.
I was inspecting wherever the belt pouch is to see if there's one for this guy too.
Kind of as you rolled him over and you kind of looked and all of that, he didn't have one on him. The trail of string, the way of securing it to the belt has been like kind of torn off. You imagine if you looked around, you probably would find that they were spilled during the fight, possibly. You might be able to locate that. Clearly kept something there in the exact same spot that everyone else did, but the coin isn't there.
What about a book or the journal that ever seems to be a running theme for?
Yeah, he has a journal, but his journal is a little less diligent.
Okay.
It has some of the same markings that Pickelson is finding, for sure.
So we'll be able to compare that up in a bit.
Yeah, but it's not as detailed.
Okay.
Comparing them later will tell you that there were different transactions being kept.
Okay. Just like looking around at this. Oh, gosh. Okay. So that's that. Can I tell from the lacerations? So because I like pugilism, enjoy fisticuffs and that kind of thing, oftentimes you can tell if something's coming from bigger than you or smaller than you for these impacts on this person. And they're roughly, what size are they?
They're pretty average size.
In the 5 to 6 foot range? Okay.
Yeah. And certainly outdoorsy. And the hits come from a downward angle.
Okay. So definitely something big, possibly a bear or something along those lines that would be coming down at him. Okay. Gotcha. My assumption. Because if it was a wolf, it would come from underneath, go for the throat. So it's definitely not a wolf. It's got to be something bigger than that. In the throat area, nothing.
It's got some rips and tears as well. Okay. I would say that this one's different in that not a huge chunk is missing, like Pickelsen's.
Okay.
But there's large and long lacerations.
All right. Then the hands, fingernails. Is there blood under the fingernails?
Oh, what would be under the fingernails? That's a good question. While I think on an answer for that one, Lockwood, you're closely inspecting the body. I'm going to flip a token. And Lockwood, if you would make a hard upgraded once with a setback discipline check for me.
Okay. Sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
I have no discipline. This is going to be great. Hard with upgrade and a setback. So that's, just so the listeners are aware, that is 2 green, 1 red, 2 purple, and a black.
You can flip on that also.
I can't flip back on the same point that was used. It just got flipped. If there was a second one, yes, I think, right? Or can I?
You're supposed to have one in order to flip instead of the one that was just flipped. They count as at the same time, so to speak.
Yeah. So that's fine. I'll roll it. Just pure discipline check in this regard. I want to see if
So a cool breeze runs a chill down Lockwood's spine.
Can he get a boost because he knows Pickelson's right around the corner?
No, he had 6 failures on that vigilance check.
That's true. Yeah.
He's touched.
Yeah. That blasted check of all things. Here we go. 4 failures. 4 failures. No despair.
Uh-huh.
But I still failed. So I'm
okay.
Spooked, or what's the deal here?
So a cold breeze runs a chill down Lockwood's spine. That chill has goosebumps spread out from his neck and down his arms. Something is deeply wrong. Something is very, very wrong. He doesn't know exactly what.
No. So he's been over this body and he's checking it, checking things, whatnot. And that breeze happens. And he would naturally, just instinctively, he would glance up, like past his shoulder, like, okay, that's got to be like, intuition, something along those lines. So he glances over his shoulder, just because we're not in a familiar area, and he's not glancing back towards where everyone is.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the opposite direction he'd be glancing.
And from the direction that he looks, he doesn't see anything. The breeze blows through the leaves because something's deeply wrong. From the direction that everybody is, he hears Annika call out, "Traitor!"
Traitor? What? So he gets up, brushes himself off. What now? He turns back to the group.
And turning back towards the cabin, you can see that Annika, Gerwin, and Fagin are there with Pickelson on his knees before them.
Whoa.
Annika is pointing her pistol at Pickelson. Gerwin and Fagin have their rifles at him.
What?
He's on his knees with his hands in the air.
What?
Sergeant Pickelson, we find you a traitor to the crown. Though it gives me no pleasure, we will carry out sentence here in the field.
might not give her any pleasure,
Gerwin cycles the lever on his rifle and takes aim at Penny.
but I'm gonna enjoy this.
No, stop!
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Foxglove Letters. We hope you've enjoyed the adventure so far and can't wait to see where the story goes. Before we go, we want to let you know that we love hearing from our listeners. If you have a question for our players, their characters, a comment on the story, or just want to say hello, drop us a line at diceycantina@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and YouTube at diceycantina for behind-the-scenes artwork and world building. Or if you just prefer to chat, join the Discord. Links to everything are in the show notes. If you're enjoying the show, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, as it helps us grow the show and reach more listeners. The Foxglove Letters is a creation of Dicey Cantina, playing Genesis by Edge Studio. Until next time, dear listeners, don't forget the words of Mr. Cunningham when he said, "Don't just watch the world pass you by. Reach out and grab the stars."